I went over to Borders. I picked up his book called Your First Year in Network Marketing. And my first week, I went through some tough times. I talked to all my friends and family. My very first day, in fact, I signed up in a coffee shop. And right after the presentation, I invited all my friends over to the coffee shop. I think I invited like 10 friends. And on the next day, none of them showed disappointed. In the street home, I saw that book on my desk. I started reading about 12 midnight. And I'll say read just one chapter.
I think Jim is now...
midnight. Hello, Dave?
Yeah, Jim, you were cutting out there. So go on. I'll let you keep talking here for a second.
Okay. I actually started reading that book 12 midnight after all my friends started flicking. And I read all the way up to 5 a.m. in the morning. And there's one thing that really caught my attention is in his first chapter, he talked about 95% of people who stick in the industry for longer than 10 years, 95% of them is going to make it 6 years above and achieve financial freedom. And that quote right there kept me in the industry for my first 3 years. I didn't have any results, but because of that quote right there, I never quit. And in my 4th year, I actually achieved from 0 to 6-figure income, and I wouldn't be here today without Mark. So, man, Mark, we are excited. Are you there with us, my friend, Mr. Mark now?
I'm here, Jim. Thanks for those comments. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine, Mark. Perfectly clear.
Okay, great. Well, let me correct one thing Jim said, because I get a lot of credit. This isn't false humility. I want you to pay attention to what this young man said. He said, I didn't do a whole lot my first or second or third year, and then my 4th year I hung in and I got to 6-figure income. What that tells me is it wasn't Mark Yarnell. It was a guy that was a Ferrari looking for a can of gas, and our industry was the gas. And I hear this over and over and over, and people are very kind to say, you know, I read something in your book, and it challenged me, or it motivated me, or it excited me. But then what they always add on to the end is the truth, and that is, so here's what I did, and here's how focused I was, and here's how long I did it. Make no mistake about it. The real winners in this business follow a strategic plan that I'm going to talk to you about tonight. Now, let me warn you about something right up front. And Dave, you know, bless his heart, he'll let me get by with anything. I said to Dave today, I said, are you okay with me just coming straight from the hip and giving these people some stuff that's going to be real provocative, as long as I believe it with my heart and guts? And he said, absolutely, Mark. You hold nothing back. You tell them the truth. So I want to just, first of all, I appreciate your comments, Jim. Dave, I very much appreciate your willingness to let me just shoot from the hip. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm almost 60 years old. For 24 years, every morning, I've gotten out of bed and gone zippity-doo-dah and decided what I was going to do that day, because I've always had money and freedom. And that's the real key. You know, what network marketing has done for me, and the thing that's not talked about nearly enough, is it gave me the freedom to choose whatever I wanted to do. Now, there are a lot of you on this call that have dreams and goals and plans that you could achieve if you just had the money and freedom. Let me tell you what the most exciting thing about this profession is. It's not the money. It's not the airplanes or the, you know, or the Ferraris, and many of you will have those things. Don't get me wrong. It's the freedom to do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. Now, that's something nobody can take away from me. You know, I mean, people say, you made so many millions of dollars and wasn't that great. No, let me tell you what was great. What was great was having the freedom to pursue my dreams and goals. Now, I grew up in a writing family. You know, my dad wrote a bunch of bestsellers. He made his living as an author when I was growing up. My mom was a freelance editor for a number of large publishing companies. So I grew up in a literary family, and I wanted to be a writer. The problem is I never took any courses in school, in high school, on you know, journalism or literary, creative literature, or writing, journalism skills. I didn't know how to write. I grew up in a writing family. And when you become a writer, you got to realize it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of freedom. It takes a lot of money to, you know, my first 39 articles that I submitted to magazines were all rejected. I got all those little slips that said, we're sorry. And then the 40th article got published. To be a writer, to be a polo player, to be a jet boat racer. I don't know what your dreams and goals and plans are, but here's what I do know. To be anything in life, you got to have the time, freedom, and the money to pursue those things. So I think networking, more than anything else, is a tool which provides the money and, more importantly, and this is the critical thing, the freedom, the time every day to pursue your dreams and goals and plans. Tonight I want to talk to you, and you know, Dave's told you the title. I want to talk to you about the age-old question, how do you get to $100,000 a month in a year or less? Now, there are a lot of people who don't like to hear this, a lot of regulators who say, Yarnell, you shouldn't talk about those big numbers like that because not everybody does it. Well, I think that's stupid. The truth is, it'd be like if I was a basketball player and I was going to try out, you know, say 10 years ago for the Chicago Bulls, and the coach brought me in out of college, and he was trying to recruit me, and he said, now, Mark, I know you want to play in the NBA, and I know you want to be great. You see that guy sitting down at the end of the bench? His name is Philip Stillwell, and he's never played 1 minute, but, you know, Philip has made the team. He sits on the bench every game. He practices pretty hard, and we pay him $200,000 a year. And if you're if you work hard and you're real good, one day maybe you can be as good as Philip. That coach isn't going to say that to me. He's going to point to the end of the basketball court, and he's going to say, you see that guy down there? His name is Michael Jordan. Last year he made $18 million just off Hanes underwear ads. The guy's an animal. If you come into our team and you work hard and you let him mentor you and you practice real hard, maybe one day you'll be as great as Michael Jordan or Pippen or one of the other big players. See, in every field in capitalism, the greatest people are held up as examples of what you can do, except in network marketing. We're like the bastard stepchildren of capitalism. We can't even tell the truth about what we earn for fear that people will get sucked into this horrible network marketing. Well, I'm going to tell you the truth tonight. I'm going to tell you I think that $100,000 a month is chump change. I don't think that's big money. When I was writing for Success Magazine, I interviewed people making $2 million a month, $3 million a month. You know, I don't want to hear about Yarnell, $100,000 is a lot of money. What I want you to know is how any man or woman, assuming certain things, I want you to know how people like me with no college diploma, no wealthy parents, no special skills, can create millions and millions of dollars in income, but more importantly, can create the freedom to get out of bed every morning, sing zippity-doo-dah, and do whatever I want. Now, you can do whatever you want when you hear this stuff, but I suggest you pay attention because, you know, I've got no reason to not come out of the blocks with the facts for you. I mean, you're not in my company. I'm not in your company. I'm not trying to get you to sign up in anything. All I want you to know by giving back to this industry what a wonderful lifestyle it's given to me is how I got to the big money. And I'm going to tell you tonight, I'm going to tell you the 5 things you need to know to get to $100,000 a month. Now, what you do with this stuff is all up to you. Number 1, it's what I call the core value match. You got to ask yourself this question. Would you recruit your mama into the deal you're in? Is this so credible, so decent, so realistic that you'd bring mama into the deal even if mama was kind of sick and didn't have a lot of money? If mama was dependent on you, if mama was still alive for some of you, mine isn't, but if yours were, would you bring your mama in? Because let me tell you something. This number 1 point is very critical. If your core values do not match the company you're in, you will sabotage yourself eventually, and you will be a result of unintended consequences. In other words, if you don't believe in what you're doing, eventually at an unconscious level, you will take steps to sabotage yourself right before you get to the big money. People like Jim get to the big money in under 4 years or 5 years, largely because their core values match the company they're ultimately in where they make that big money. So just understand something. If any of you are knowingly in a deal that you don't really believe you'd be proud to put mama in, you're in the wrong deal. I've been in 3 deals in my whole life in 24 years. I've never even been tempted to do one that did not match my core values. Now let me tell you about how easy it is to get seduced into one of those. I'll bet I get, realistically, just because of my transparency and the books I've read and the articles I've read and the speeches I've delivered, a lot of people get to thinking I'm a whole lot smarter than I really am. And I get a lot of calls every month from guys that own companies, and they're offering me signing bonuses. And all I've got to do is ask 2 or 3 questions to figure out that my core values do not match what they're doing. And they always say the same thing, but Yarnell, do you have any idea how much money you could make? And my comment is, hey, it's about doing something I'd put my mom in if she was still alive, and I wouldn't put my mom in your deal. So, you know, I don't care. You transfer $1 billion to my checking account tomorrow, I'm not doing your deal. I've had people say, Yarnell, you're nuts. You're certifiably insane. Anybody would, if you get $1 billion tomorrow, of course you'd do my deal. No, I wouldn't even consider it unless the deal matches my core values. Friends, I've seen over and over and over again great men and women enter our industry seduced by big money, violate their core values, and join something that they knew darn good and well was a flim-flam, a bottle rocket, a sizzle company, and then they sabotaged themselves just before they got to the big money. You will do that unless you're a sociopath, because subconsciously all of us has a core value match to certain companies and a core value unmatched to many others. So number one, if you want to get to the big money, make absolutely sure you're representing a vehicle, a company, either a product or a service, where you would recruit mama into it because you're that proud of it. And if you won't, you better look for something that matches your core values. Now, another thing I want to say before moving on to point 2, folks, this is only my opinion. You know, I've got limited experience. I've been in 3 deals total in 24 years, but I have interviewed a lot of people. When I was writing for Success Magazine for 2 years, all they did was send me around the country interviewing big money people. I not only know what I've done to get to the big money, I know what people that got to $2 and $3 million a month did because they opened up to me when they knew I was writing articles about them for Success Magazine. So I've got a pretty good handle on this. So trust me, it's just my opinion, but my opinion matters because I learned so much from so many great men and women in our industry. So number one, just understand your core values have got to match the company opportunity that you're involved in, or eventually you'll do something stupid to sabotage yourself. Self-sabotage is an unintended consequence when people get involved in something purely for money that they know at a heart level is a bunch of garbage. So there are great companies. They're bottle rockets. Make sure you're looking at something that matches your values if you want to get to $100,000 a month. Now, the second thing, in my opinion, if you want to get to $100,000 a month, was taught by Harvard for many, it still is. If you get in the Harvard MBA program, if you're lucky enough to get into Harvard, you're going to take a course. You're going to actually get a series of lectures on what they call the billion-dollar blueprint. Now, simply put, what a lot of really brilliant marketing experts have done is they've analyzed different billion-dollar industries, and they have built a profile of what companies are most likely going to make it to that magic number of $1 billion in annualized sales or volume. The number one of 7 things that they teach you at Harvard they call market sector. Here's what they mean. If you're going to get in any industry, especially the distribution industry like ours, you have to make sure that you've got a large enough sector either of your product or your service. Now, let me give you an example. All things being equal, you're much better off, in my opinion, doing a company that 100% of the people in North America use every day, as opposed to one where 75% of the people don't use it at all. What you need to ask yourself is this: if you're going to get to $100,000 a month, how big is the market sector, and how much competition do you have within that sector? And I'm just going to tell you right now, the bigger the market sector, the more likelihood your product or service is going to be distributed to more and more and more people, and you're going to get to that magic $100,000 a month figure. Now, those are the only two things that I'm going to say about company selection. But it better match your core values if you want to get to the big money, or you'll probably sabotage yourself. And it ought to be a market sector that's big enough that you're in a non-competitive or non-threatening arena where you can actually reach a huge number of people. I say to people all the time, all things being equal, let's say you're looking at two companies. One of them is marketing services or products that is used by everybody, and the other one is marketing products or services used by a tiny fraction of the population. Would you rather get into the distribution of a product or opportunity or anything that you've got to modify people's behavior to get them to use it once, or would you rather get into a profession, into a field, into a market sector where everybody's already conditioned to using what you're trying to sell them? It's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. Number 3, and this is critical, 2 hours a day, professional relationship building. Now, listen to me very careful. This is very, very important. I know no exceptions to this. Again, now we're talking about getting to $100,000 a month, and we're talking about doing that in 12 months. So you know it's not going to be easy. You have got to work 2 hours a day in professional relationship building. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is, out of 24 hours, you do whatever you want with 22 of them. What I want you to do is I want you to realize that you're only paid to do 2 things in network marketing. Now, you may be in a different company. You may be in something brand new I've never heard of from, Bangladesh or Zimbabwe or some obscure third world country that's just launched a new MLM model I don't even know about. But as far as I know, network marketing pays you to do 2 things. 1, recruit. 2, retail. That's it. Period. End of the story. Now, listen to me carefully. 2 hours a day, that means you got to be into professional relationship building. Now, what do I mean by professional? What I mean is, well, let me make it so that it doesn't appear to be a disparaging comment. When Tiger Woods was the last year he was an amateur, Tiger Woods didn't make anything. The first year he turned pro, he made $18 million. Now the question is, what was the difference? He went to the driving ranges often. He actually played in one less tournament his first pro year than he did his last amateur year. He didn't make anything as an amateur, but he made $18 million the first year he turned pro. What's the difference? He was professional. He was playing in pro tournaments. Now, if the difference between an amateur and a professional is, an amateur doesn't get paid, a professional does. Now, use a little common sense here. If network marketing pays you to do 2 things, only 2, recruit and retail a product or service, then anything else is amateur. That doesn't mean in a disparaging way that you're some kind of amateur. I don't mean it's not a put down. It's just that amateurs don't get paid. So here's what I know. If Mark Yarnell is watching Oprah, he's an amateur. If Mark Yarnell is surfing the net, looking at other deals, he's an amateur. If Mark Yarnell is playing pool, he's an amateur. If Mark Yarnell is recruiting or retailing, he's a professional. So listen to me carefully. You want to get to the big, big, big money? Number 3, work 2 hours a day as a professional relationship builder. In other words, do your very best to communicate in some manner with prospects, either for your opportunity or the product or service you're selling, at least 2 hours a day. Now, you decide how you want to do it. There are a lot of people on this call who are very, very exceptional at technology communication. They can build professional relationships using the Internet. Great. 2 hours a day. Don't be jacking around doing anything else online. Don't be tweeting and Twittering and Facebooking and all that stuff. You got 22 hours to get into your social network and talk about, who did what last weekend at the big party. 2 hours a day, you need to get involved in professional relationship building online. If you use the phone, 2 hours a day, you need to be calling other human beings in another location and talking to them about your opportunity or your product or your service. If you do meetings, 2 hours a day, you better be doing it. If you go walk around and talk to people and hand out DVDs, you better go walking around 2 hours a day. Here's all I'm asking you to do. 2 hours a day, professional relationship building. Use whatever vehicle you want. Doesn't matter. But during those 2 hours, you're focused on only two things, recruiting and retailing. Because, ladies and gentlemen, listen to me carefully. That's all you're paid to do. That's all you're paid to do. You're not paid to listen to whining downline people. You're not paid to try to drag losers across the finish line. You're not paid to talk to your upline. You're not paid to sit and listen to CDs about how to build the business. You're not paid to watch, surf the net and look for new deals in prospecting. You are paid to recruit and retail. Please do that 2 hours a day if you want to get to $100,000 a month. And the good news is you only got to do that 5 days a week. And that brings me to point 4. You have to decide to get to $100,000 a month whether you're going to follow a 1, a 2, or a 3-year plan. Now, here's the difference. It's all just a numbers game. It sounds easy rolling off my tongue, but it's very hard work. I mean, listen to me carefully. If you're going to do $100,000 a month in most companies in 1 year, you're going to have to talk to 30 people a day, 5 days a week. We'll just call it a 20-day month. If you're going to do it in 2 years, you're going to have to build professional relationships with 20 people a day in some capacity. And if you want to do it in 3 years, you're going to have to do 10 a day. There is no substitute. You can't go down to 5 a day and do it in 4 years. That isn't going to work. It's the law of diminishing returns. So let's pretend for a moment that you want to get to $100,000 a month and you want to do that in 1 year. That means 2 hours a day, your objective is to do everything in your power 20 days a month to talk to 30 people. Now, people say, Yarnell, 30 people a day? That's impossible. How would I do that? Well, I'm going to get to that in a moment, but basically all you're doing is driving people to information. There are several steps in this industry. The first one is exposure. You don't want to sell them the farm in the very first conversation. And I'll get to that in a minute when I get to point 5. But in point 4, you got to remember, if you want to get to $100,000 a month, you got to talk to 30 people a day, 20 days a month, and I'm going to give you worst case scenario. That's 600 people. Let's assume 95% of them just don't do squat. They don't sign up. They don't use your service. They don't use your product. That's worst case scenario. In today's world, you've got 80 million baby boomers who are broke and hooped, and you've got 85 million Generation Yers who have no idea what to do except run around on skateboards with backwards ball caps. They're starving to death. They're wanting a job. They're wanting a profession. There's never been a higher percentage of young, aggressive people who deserve to prosper and old, tired people who've played by the rules and wound up with no 401k in the history of planet Earth. It's never happened in the richest country in the world. So you want to talk to 30 of them a day. You want to drive them to the information, maybe spend 2 minutes at the most with 30 people. I can talk to 30 people in 2 hours if I waste time with several of them. So on a 20-day month, that's 600 people. If 570 of them, which is 95%, don't do anything, I can promise you 30 of them will. Now, not all of them will become distributors. Some of them will just want your product or they'll just want your service. But a lot of them will become distributors. Now, let's go again. Worst case scenario. That means at the end of the month, you've got 30 people by talking to 600. 570 didn't do anything. Now most of you are going to do better than that. I'm giving you worst case scenario to be fair here. Out of that 30, let's say 29 of them quit. What that means is, if you do that for 12 months, at the end of the year, you've got 12 frontline winners. It is impossible, or if you're in a binary, 12 winners anywhere. I don't care where you put them. Here's the point. If 6 of them quit, I've never seen a company with 6 monsters and great networkers busting it where you'd make under $120,000 a month. I've never seen one. Now, I'm sure there are some comp plans that don't reward you effectively, but on a normal 45 to 55% payout with reasonable levels or reasonable balancing of 2 legs, whatever the pay plan, if you've got 6 monster distributors in your organization, it's impossible not to earn that kind of money. But notice what we're talking about here, and I'm keeping it very, very realistic. You're busting your chops. You're talking to 600 people a month. 95% of them aren't doing anything. Of those who do, 29 out of 30 are quitting, and out of the 12 winners you get, 6 of them quit. You're still at $100,000 a month, folks. You can challenge me all you want. I've never have I seen the opportunity presented to me where a person couldn't do that with 6 winners anywhere in their organization. So that's number 4. You've got to pick a 1, 2, or 3-year plan. If you want to get to $100,000 a month in 3 years, talk to 10 people a day, 20 days a month. You want to do it in 2, talk to 20. You want to do it in 1, talk to 30. Now, remember what I said earlier. It sounds real easy rolling off my tongue. I'm going to be real straight up with you. It isn't easy. It's the hardest work you'll ever do. I'm telling you, it is not easy to get on the phone or on the internet or out in the community and have the courage to literally approach and introduce and expose 30 people a day to this business. If you think it is, just go try it. It all depends on how much money you want to make and how hard you're willing to work. And number 5, and this is important, if you are going to get to $100,000 a month, you've got to know the landmines. You got to learn how to recognize the landmines that are going to blow up your career, and you got to avoid them. Now, I'm going to give you the 10 biggest landmines tonight that blow up people's career. Listen to me carefully. Landmine number 1, I call the comparison bomb. Friends, when somebody talks, if you're in a deal and somebody calls you and says, I've got something I want you to look at, I'm in this new deal, you want to hold up a mental bag of garlic and a cross like you're dealing with a dadgum vampire. I heard the laugh. This business is focus, focus, focus. I have never seen a bomb blow more legs off the careers of people when they're just getting started than the comparison bomb. You don't need to be looking at other deals. You need to be like the Jims of the world. You need to be saying, hey, I don't care if it takes me 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 years. I'm going to the top of this deal, and that means I'm going to focus, focus, focus. I am not going to compare my deal. I've already made a choice. Friends, if you pick a good deal and you're happy with it and you like the service the company's selling and you like the pay plan and you like your company and your upline, why would you waste your time allowing other people to compare their deal to yours? Forget about other deals. They'll blow you up. Hold up a bag of garlic. Somebody tries to show me a deal, they're a vampire. I'm never talking to them. Landmine number 2, the multiple stream income bomb. Folks, listen to me carefully. Listen very, very carefully. I know there are celebrity authors out there telling you got to diversify and do multiple streams of income. Bunk. You've got to focus. Now, there are situations in which you will be doing one MLM company, and you'll find tools that will allow you to expedite your success, and those tools may have affiliate compensation. There will be times when you'll be in one deal and you find ways to use other tools to drive your one deal. That's not a multiple stream of income. But if you think you can do 3 or 4 legitimate networking deals at the same time, you're nothing but a carnival barker. You're saying to people, hey, if you don't like what I got up this sleeve, let me show you what I got over here. You might as well be running a tilt-a-whirl at the Ozark Empire Fair, toothless. Forget multiple streams of income. The only people that advocate multiple streams of income are people who write books and have never built a downline in network marketing. As far as I'm concerned, it's a goofball proposition. You can only do one deal. Don't step on the multiple stream of income bomb. You'll blow your leg off. Number 3, the multitasking bomb. Listen to me carefully, folks. Everybody can multitask, but nobody can multifocus. It's impossible. If I asked you to focus on both A and B, you might flip back and forth between A and B fast enough to believe you're doing both. You're not. That's not the way the human brain works. You have got to stop multitasking 2 hours a day and focus on one thing and one thing only, recruiting and retailing. Now, if you want to multitask and con yourself into thinking you can do two things at once, be my guest 22 hours a day. But the purpose of this call is to get you to $100,000 a month without you blowing up your career in the first year. And if you want to blow up your career, you just try to multitask. You know, some of you, this is going to make you mad. I'm going to say it anyway. If all of a sudden a Bic pen, let's say that all of a sudden we found out a Bic pen, a blue, only blue. You know those little writing pens people use? Bic pen, the kind you buy for 80 cents in any store. All of a sudden, the blue Bic pen with blue ink and a blue cap started blowing up and taking out lives. And all of a sudden, you find out in your city, 2 people yesterday died of a blue Bic pen blow-up. And then all of a sudden, a week later, you find out 22 people in your town died from a blue Bic pen blow. How long do you think it would take for the government and your local government to start recalling and getting rid of blue Bic pens? Friends, let me tell you something. Last year in my little tiny province up here in Canada, 1,200 people were maimed permanently because they were trying to drive while they were talking on a cell phone. Now, if it were a Bic pen blowing up and causing a person to go over the yellow line and hit somebody with a head-on, they'd be recalling those pens. What do you think they're doing with cell phones up here? Everybody's still using them. Now, why is a cell phone a problem when you're driving? Well, real simple. 159 people died, innocent people, in other cars because people crossed over the yellow line and caused head-ons, because nobody can multifocus. You can multitask. I mean, you can put on lipstick and eat your burger and talk on your phone and tweet your friend. You can tweet Larry King while you're driving down the street at 60, and I understand Larry loves tweeting. But here's the deal. Too many people are dying. Don't try to multitask in network marketing. Just do one deal 2 hours a day, and that deal is recruiting and retailing. Number 4 is the banker bomb. You want to have your business explode before you know what hits you? Loan people the money to buy the starter kit. You know, I tell people are always asking me, Yarnell, you've made so much money. I'll tell you what, if you'll just finance me in this deal and you'll bring me in, you'll buy the kit, watch my smoke. I'm a genius. I'm great. I've built deals I've been in 20 deals and I've built them all. If you'll just give me the money for a kit, I say, you know what, I made a deal with my banker. I won't loan money if he won't do MLM. We got a deal. So listen to me, folks. I've given up $17,000 over my 24-year career. Not one of those people ever made it. Not one of them ever paid me a penny back. I'm not whining. This industry's been real good to me, but I just decided something. I'm going to warn people early on. Forget the banker bomb. It'll blow up. Nobody will give you your money back, and none of them will make it. People value the kid at what they pay for it, which is zero if you loan them money. The 5th bomb I call the product expert bomb. The more technically oriented you become to your product or service, the more you're going to baffle people who you should be trying to get into the business. Let me tell you something. When I was in Nu Skin, I was with Nu Skin 13 years, still love that company with all my heart. You know, I sold my downline, but what a company. Blake Roney, Steve Lund, Craig Bryson, Craig Tilton, Claire McDermott, those people were so fair to me, so honest, so decent. They were always honest. They never screwed around with me. But I decided when I got to $60,000 a month that I needed to become a product expert. Now, they had a little product that used to stimulate hair growth. It's called Nutriol. So I called over to Italy to the Cuomo, Italy to Krinos Labs because I wanted to become I thought, man, I am brilliant. I'm making so much money. I better learn how this works. And so I learned exactly how it worked. And so I'd stand up in front of a crowd of people, and I'd dazzle them with my product expertise. I'd say, I'd explain to them exactly how Krinos was able to to fractionate the mucopolysaccharides to exactly the right molecular structure so it could penetrate to the very papilla of the hair follicle and stimulate and vasodilate growth. And I'd have dermatologists in the audience shaking their head. They didn't know what I was talking about. The more you know about products and services, the more you might think you're dazzling people. You're not. You don't have to be a product or a comp plan expert to work. The more expert you become, the less likely you're going to be spending your time doing what you're paid to do, which is recruit and retail. Now, you need to know something about your product and company, but don't become an expert. That's a bunch of garbage. The sixth bomb is the friends and family bomb. I got news for you. Your friends and family are not a market to be. If you look up the word market in the dictionary, it'll say a group of people to be sold or exploited. Your friends and family are not a group of people to be exploited. They're going to join you in your deal like rats going off a sinking ship when you get your first big check. You don't need to do a Hulk Hogan smackdown on Aunt Mildred the first week. They can't wait to get involved once you start making big money. Most of us can count our close friends and family on 2 hands and 2 toes. 2 feet. Why run off the people we love the most when they're going to join us as fast as they can when we get to the big money? Save your friends and family for later. Your warm market is people who will warm up to you when they find out you've got something in common with them. So, in my case, I just got the list of all the paraglide pilots in North America, 33,000 of them. I can't remember now. I never got through half of them before I was making $1 million a year. So, I mean, basically, and I just call them. I'm a paraglide pilot. Hey, it's Mark Yarnell. Hey, Dave, it's Mark Yarnell. I'm a paraglide pilot up here in British Columbia. Are you still flying? Yeah, I am, David said. Wow, that's great. Listen, before we go any further, Dave, I want to know what kind of wing you're flying on. Grab a pen. I found a way for paraglide pilots to make $50,000 a month and fly 5 days a week. You got to be kidding. I mean, these people didn't reject me. They loved the fact that I was a paraglide pilot like them. I had instant rapport with them, and I bought those names for pennies. So listen to me carefully. Forget the friends and family bomb. Don't step on they're not a market to be. Well, you're going to get all them anyway. Don't Hulk Hogan your Aunt Mildred. Number 7 is the networking bomb. Forget about meetings where everybody shows up to change cards and switch company. These network meetings where you go in and there are 50 people there, and you're going to meet all kinds of people. They're only there for one reason, and they're there to switch and get your card and try to who's the best salesman. They're going to try to get you in their deal. I've never seen one of those meetings work. Forget about those breakfasts where everybody changes cards, and you get 30 seconds to pitch your deal. Those people are not there to get in your deal. They're there to get you in their deal. Total waste of time. The 8th one is what I call the dabble bomb. The dabble bomb. When you know for sure you've got a dabbler, a part-timer, don't be wasting a bunch of your time. This may be the silliest industry I've ever seen. This may be the only industry in the world where a person can make $100,000 a month, and all they want to do is figure out how to do it without working. I've had people say, Yarnell, I see it. I get it. I can't. I'm losing sleep. I'm so excited. What a great industry. Now if I can just figure out how to do it without working. When people want to dabble, I give them to somebody else to dabble. I'm not going to jack around with people who want to dabble. The dabble bomb will blow you up. You're looking for people with enough IQ to go to work to get to the big money. They need money. They need freedom. They need everything you've got. If all they want to do is dabble, forget it. The 9 is the dump bomb. Do not dump all your information on a prospect the first time you talk to them. Just expose them to a little bit of information to tweak their enthusiasm. When they come back to you, that's when you do the presentation. The dump bomb will blow you up because people will say, well, that sounds real interesting, Dave. Tell me a little bit about your company. And you're sucked into it, and you start giving them a presentation in the very first approach. You dump the whole farm on them in the first 5 minutes. I'm going to tell you what they're going to do. They're going to go home, and they're going to Google your company. They're going to go, aha, I knew it. It's one of those pyramid schemes. I've got an aunt with a garage full of soap, and they're gone. So don't dump on them in the very beginning. Just expose them to information that's calculated to get them excited. And then number 10 is the shortcut bomb. If you hear nothing else I say tonight, please hear this. You heard how Jim eloquently launched this entire webinar tonight. He said, I didn't do squat my first year, my second, my third, and then my fourth, I got to a six-figure income. Now, I'll be honest with you. It took Jim a little longer than it needed to. But I so admire a man of his stature, a guy who will work that hard that many years because he sees the payoff at the end of the tunnel. Friends, there are no shortcuts. This is hard work, and it's worth it. But the good news is, full-time's 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, if you do it right. So, geez, boy, you know, I cannot believe
Unmuted.
these webinars go by. There's more I could tell you. I do want to, well, I'll tell you later. Dave, back to you in case anybody's got any questions. That's about all I know. I didn't mean to kickstart my mouth, but believe it or not, I have some other stuff I could have said. But I'm going to flip it back to you in case
Hey, no,
we got
Mark,
some
if you got other stuff to say, you're welcome to say it. If anything on your mind in particular?
Well, I'd rather answer questions because
Okay.
I've dumped a lot of stuff out there tonight, and I'm sure somebody's got some questions they want to ask.
Well, that was awesome, first off. Well, one thing that I want you to mention, Mark, for everybody on the call, Mark has got a book coming out here over the next, is it coming out in the next month, Mark?
Yeah, people are actually already ordering it. So they can review. If you like what you heard tonight, just go check out the website, the Lotus Code. Now, I'm not trying to, I don't, if you didn't like what you heard tonight, don't even waste your time. But I've worked really, really hard on this, Dave. It's called the Lotus Code, and it is basically a 2,500-year-old theory of how to create radical attainment. It's been hidden in plain sight for 2,500 years. You can check out the information. Just go to thelotuscode.com. And that's, by the way, that's Lotus Code, like the car, first car I bought when I got rich, Lotus. So it's the Lotus code, CODE.com. And all it is a book, but it's a book with 2 CDs, and I think it's the best work I've done. I appreciate you guys saying nice things about my other book. This is my seminal work, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Well, I am excited about it, too. And just everybody on the call, I've been following Mark Yarnell for years. I think every book that he's ever written, I've bought. I think all the courses that he's released, I've bought. And they've helped me a ton. And he does things, his style and my style are a little bit different, but it's the same philosophy. It's talking to lots of people. It's building lots of relationships. And I am absolutely, let me tell everybody on this call, I'm going to be one of the first people to have this book when it comes out. I'm going to hop right on there and buy it. It's going to be awesome. Mark, do you know how much that's going to be when it comes out?
Oh, I don't know, $20, $25. It's not. I mean, it's not going to be a big pop. I'll tell you what got me excited about it.
Okay.
I actually delivered a lecture, and a guy from Disney heard it. One of the animators that did The Lion King won the Academy Award for that. And this guy and another lady called and said, we like that. Would you consider putting that in the book? Nobody's heard this stuff. This guy was one of the guys behind The Secret. And this group of people had promoted The Secret to this $500 million phenomenon. They said, the one thing you're saying here is you're taking people beyond this notion that they just have to sit and think, that really, even Napoleon, Think and Grow Rich, it took him 3 years to get that book in. And so you can't, there's some steps between right thoughts and proper words and visualization. And you've captured it. We got to tell people the truth. To get to attainment, it requires some other things, and you've encapsulated that. Would you consider doing a book? So I wasn't even going to do it, and then these Disney people contacted me and said, this is much better than The Secret. Would you do it? And I said, yeah. So that's how this whole thing originated.
Awesome. Well, I'm buying it, just so everybody knows. And we've got the website up here on the screen for everybody who's on the computer. You can see it, thelotuscode.com. It looks like he's got a newsletter there. I encourage everybody to go and sign up for that newsletter and then get that book the second it comes out because, like I said, I've been following Mark Yarnell for years. He's probably one of the only reasons I ever stayed in this industry and started being successful. So I appreciate that, Mark. And what we're going to do now, guys, is 2 things. Number 1, I want to invite everybody to leave who's got to run, who's got to get back to your family or whatever. Mark's actually he's going to be courteous enough here to answer some of your questions. It's pretty rare that you get a chance to ask questions to somebody who's made $30 million in this industry. And next week, I just want to announce we have a call with another gentleman who's going to be coming on, who's actually put he hasn't done this himself, but he has been able to pull together teams and build teams with over 900,000 people total since he's been involved in network marketing. Everybody on call, just kind of keep your eyes out. I'll send that email out here in a couple of days so you're all notified. You're going to want to be on next week's call. And so, Mark, without any further ado, Kenny, are you on the line? Jim?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
I'm
Kenny,
here.
do you want to start pulling up questions?
Sure, we can do that. Let me see if we have anybody. Let's see here. We have somebody that raised their hand. Do you want me to pull them out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey,
By the
John,
way,
hi.
I'll
You
be
there,
on
John?
that call.
Hello. Yeah, I'm here. It's John Rothstein with you. First off, I'd like to thank both Jim, David, and Kenny for putting this call together. Awesome job. And Mark, wow, what a trip to be able to speak to you. I just bought your book yesterday, and great stuff that you put out to us today. And it reminds me, I'm less than a year into network marketing, and I'm not making a lot of money. But it reminds me of when I first left California to go work on Wall Street. They didn't pay me a lot of money when I started there, but I didn't quit, and eventually it started to click, and I made some cash. So looking forward to your book. I just want to say thank you so much. Awesome stuff.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that kind comment.
Muted. Unmuted. Muted. Unmuted.
Kenny, I don't know if you're muting us out here, but I keep getting muted out. So let's go
No,
ahead.
that was I accidentally hit the wrong button. Sorry about that, guys.
Hey, no problem, my friend. And
My
so, guys,
fault there. I went to mute John out, and I accidentally hit the wrong button. But no problem. We got. Let's see if we can bring on the next person here. Give me 1 second. Shaba, can you hear us? Shaba, you're live. We can't hear you.
Shav, if you could call back in on a phone, we'll be able to hear you if you call in on a phone. Everybody who's got a computer and you're talking through your speakers, if you don't have a microphone on your computer, we can't actually hear you when you start talking. And so there's a phone number. If you go down to audio mode, you can click Use Telephone, and if you call back in on that number that they give you right there, we'll be able to hear you on the call. So, Shava, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next person. Let's bring on Christopher Key. Christopher, can you hear me okay? Once again, Christopher, call back on a phone. I'm going to go ahead and see if anybody is called in on an actual telephone here, and we'll bring them on. And if not,
Hey,
Kenny,
David, there's a good question here.
Okay.
There's a good question for Mark here. Mark, the question from Jeff, and Jeff's question is, what is your thoughts on technology and duplication today, 11 years after your first year in network marketing? Hello, Mark, are you still there?
I think we might have lost him. Hello, Mark, are you
Hold on
there?
here. I don't see him on, David.
Yeah, let me really quick. I'm going to see if I can three-way him back in. Hold on just 1 second. Actually, he won't be able to. Are either of you called in through a phone?
I am.
Kenny, can you try to three-way him in really quick?
You'll need to send me the phone number.
Yeah, I'm going to Skype it over to you here really quick. Hold on a second. Sorry about this, guys, for those of you who are listening. Let's see here. Kenny. All right, Kenny, I just Skyped it over to you.
I didn't see it come through.
It should pop up over in a second.
Oh, there we go. All right, give me a second. I'm going to call him.
All right, guys, we'll just kind of hang out for a bit here, see if we can get Mark back on the phone. It looks like we lost him and got cut off there. If any of you have got written questions, you can go ahead and write them down, and Jim knows how to actually read those. I don't know how to do that. If any of you have actually, if you want us to pull you on live, we've had enough problems with people talking through the computer that we haven't been able to bring on. I want you to just call in through a phone. So if your hand's raised and you want us to bring you on live, call in through a phone, and then we'll bring you on, because I don't want to Otherwise, we'll just read your question if you want to just stay on the computer. And so that's what I'm going to encourage you to do. But we'll just wait for a second here. I thought that I was blown away by this tonight, guys. I love Mark Yarnell. That was one of the most off-the-hook things that I've ever heard in my life. And so I'm just super excited that we were able to do it, that we were able to bring him on. So I hope that you guys were taking notes.
The legend himself doesn't get much more excited than this.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I was rolling on the floor laughing.
Before I
Unmuted.
Yeah, we did. You got it.
Well,
I don't know what happened. We lost you there, so I three-wayed you in. So we got you on.
well, that's why I love technology so much.
Yeah.
See, we're right in the middle of the question. I get muted out accidentally. No, I'll tell you. I thought that was pretty appropriate. What do you think of technology? Mark, are you there? What I think about technology is it's a much, much faster process of both recruiting and retailing. I know in my case, I use lots of different websites, lots of different tools for the purpose of building my business. Now, I'm a great believer in prospecting by using the telephone because I grew up with a telephone, so I'm very comfortable with it. So I love the telephone. But I've also found that when I get people that I'm building relationships with, there's nothing more wonderful than today's technology as far as expediting information to them. When I get into this business, I didn't even own a fax machine. Long distance was 50 cents a minute. So basically all you could do was build locally by walking around handing out VH. Easiest business in the world. So that's what I think of technology. I think used properly, it's absolutely wonderful.
Unmuted.
Right?
Yep. You still there, David? Are we still
Yeah,
there?
I'm still there. I got muted out for a second there again, Kenny. But great question. Jim, you want to pull up another written question while I kind of scroll through here and look for people who are on phones?
Yeah, okay, 1 second.
Let me, I know some of the questions here. Let's see if we can go through them.
Just a compliment for Mark. People are saying you're really funny.
Was that a question?
No, that was
Well, it's a funny business. You know, you got to realize we're in the business of jacking with people. You know, the thing that's fun about our business is you got to think of yourself as a seed planter. Your whole goal is to plant seeds in people's brains that are going to germinate later and give them all kinds of trouble. Most poor souls lead lives of quiet desperation. Well, keep that in mind. When you're talking to the average person, they have a life that doesn't work. If they perceive that you're funny, having fun, treating life a little bit more lightly, they want to be a part of that. So humor and fun and joy and excitement and truthfulness are all strategic advantages that work real well in our industry, in my opinion. So thanks for the compliment.
Here's a good question. I know you touched on this, but this person wants to know, how do you talk to 30 people a day?
Easy. I pick up the phone, I call their number. When they answer, I tell them specifically, I have found a way for people to get to $30,000 to $50,000 a month and enjoy whatever. You know, it depends on the people that I'm calling. If it's a paraglide pilot, you heard what I said earlier. But my goal when I go to, and I'll give you a generic tool that I put out there. It's not a capture page, but an example of what I mean by an exposure step is 15yearsleft.com. The reason I put 15 years left up, it's not a capture page. It's not a page that I've got anything attached to whatsoever. All it is a generic message of why people need to pay attention to their lifestyle and the economy right now. The trick is, when I get people on the phone, I'm never going to spend more than 2 minutes with them in the very first call, because I'm just going to drive them to a technological message that will hopefully get them excited enough to call me back. So I can actually talk to 30 people easily in 1 hour. Now, half the people I call I don't reach. So I leave them a message. And my message is always the same. Hi, this is Mark Yarnell. I need you to call me back as soon as possible. Here's my number. And I leave a number. So once I've made 30 contacts a day, even if half of them are messages, that's 30 calls. If that answers the question.
I think that's great.
But I do that every day. You've got to do that every day. It's got to become habitual. You'll learn that in Lotus Code. Once actions become habits, you slip over the fulcrum position on the teeter-totter, and the slide to attainment is literally like going down a buttered sliding board. The whole idea of perseverance, resilience, attainment, they're not. What you've got to do is you've got to go, the whole concept of Lotus Code is the idea that thoughts manifest words, words manifest actions, and actions manifest habits. Now, once you slip into habitual behavior, which can take anywhere, it can take some time, but once your activities become habitual, you will do them normally without any concern, and your perseverance will just be an inevitable byproduct. So you want those calls to become habitual to the extent that you would never get out of bed Monday through Friday without making your 30 calls, because it's a habit. It's what you do for a living, and you'll learn to do that in an hour or 2 hours at the most.
Awesome. Yeah, that's I got to try that, Mark, with the sliding butter slide.
Well, it's just so easy to go from habits straight to attainment. Perseverance is not effort-based. Once you get to the place where your actions are habitual and you're actually approaching 30 people a day, I don't care how you do it, and that becomes habitual, it'll become a way of life that you'll never do away with. It's just habitual, and you'll slide right into attainment.
Well, that kind of leads us to our next question, which I think is a very appropriate question, and that is, how much time should one spend per day training their downline?
Well, that depends on, the size of your downline. I think that until you've got a minimum of 400 people in your network, you can do it once a week. So what I say to people is, until you hit that magic number of 400 people in your downline, do a Saturday training and teach them the fundamentals each week. I mean, don't change it up on them. Give them the 5-step process. Teach them how to expose, present, validate, enroll, support their people. And so, as long as you can comfortably put 400 people on the Internet in a webinar or however you want to do it once a week, that's your training. Now, but the question, I know what you're really asking. My rule of thumb is, if you are calling me and you're actually working, I'm always here for you. So because most people don't call. So I'm always in a support mode. I might spend 30 minutes to 2 hours every single day just taking phone calls from people in my downline who have legitimate questions. And it's not so much training as it is just troubleshooting, helping them get through their first few months in the business. But I think if you're willing to do a 1-hour training every week, either on the Internet or on the telephone, that's plenty until you get up over 400 people. At that point, you need to divide it up and go into 2 training sessions a week. Now, that's just my opinion. That didn't make it right. That's just the way I do it.
And what is your reasoning behind splitting that up at 400 people? Where did you come up with that magic number?
Well, what happened, I found, is once I've used for a long time Eagle teleconferencing out in New York. Have you heard of Eagle?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've used them only because I've had good luck with them over many, many, many years, and I kind of tend to stay with, I don't change horses in midstream, so they've been pretty good to me, and I've just discovered once I get up to the line capacity of 400, I can run into technical difficulty, so it's just because I use that particular phone service when I do training. And I've just found it's easier beyond 400 to divide it up. I think once you get up over 400, you can run into some kind of technical difficulties with teaching. There are a lot of reasons for that. That's just a number I've found.
Great. Okay, let's see here. David or Jim, do you guys have a question? I'm going to go ahead and look through the rest of this.
I'm actually going to try to bring on a guy that I think actually can talk through his computer pretty well. So let me see, Matthias, if I can get you on. Matthias, are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What question do you got for Mark, Matthias?
First of all, thank you, David, Kenny, and Jim, for putting on this awesome, awesome event. Mr. Yarnell, the question I have is, how much time did you spend on yourself daily for personal development?
You know what, Matthias, that's probably one of the greatest questions I ever get, and I want to thank you for asking that. I don't spend any time in anything that isn't engaged in. And by that I mean I get up every morning at 5:30 and I read for 2 hours before I start getting phone calls. And that reading is always about things that will lift me up. Like right now, I just finished a book called The Great Turning. And The Great Turning by David Corton is one of the greatest books I have ever read in my life. Think by Michael Legault is another one that I just finished reading recently. Also, Life, Inc. is a fabulous book. I spend the first 2 hours of the morning silently reading books that mean a lot to me. Now, throughout the day, I catch myself going to my iPod. I've got a Nano with my favorite 400 songs. I have found that for me, I love music, and I love to sit down periodically during the day and just kind of scroll through my Nano and listen to music that, you know, Born to Be Wild, stuff that as a kid I grew up with that really meant a lot to me. And so I use music, I read books, I never listen to anything unless it is uplifting. I've got some DVDs by a guy who is head of Primerica, and extremely motivational. My favorite book I've ever read was by A.L. Williams, who started A.L. Williams, that evolved into Primerica, called All You Can Do. Here's what I would say, everybody on this call, go get All You Can Do is All You Can Do, but All You Can Do is Enough by A.L. Williams. Fabulous, fabulous book. I mean, absolutely remarkable. So, Matthias, the reason I appreciate that question is because I chose long ago, if it didn't uplift me, if it wasn't working on Mark Yarnell to make me better, I was not going to waste my time and energy and hours in a day going into swirling down the vortex of mediocrity. So all I ever do is designed to uplift me and everybody around me. So thanks for the question. That's an important one.
Great. Kenny, do you have a written question to read off now?
I do. This is actually a very good one, actually. It says, they want to know, Mark, what are the 3 questions that you would ask a prospect to reach your core value match?
You know, I never use that with prospects. In other words, what I'm saying to you all is I know that you people are Ferraris looking for a can of gas. You're choosing the greatest profession in the world because you want to be entrepreneurs, and network marketing is the greatest vehicle. I'll go to my grave believing that any other field is stupid. I'm dead serious about that. I don't use that with prospects. I just wanted all of you to know that if your core values don't line up with a company, you're probably going to sabotage yourself, because I've seen that happen over and over and over. I've seen people get drunk and run stop signs and end up committing manslaughter. I've seen people that are normally very passive, loving people pick a fight with their spouse and hit them and lose their kids in custody. I've seen people go through nightmare emotional problems. And I've just learned that over the years, if people are acting in ways that are just designed, are calculated to enrich them at the expense of violating their own personal morals and core values, without even knowing it, the unintended consequences, they will frequently commit actions that right before they make it to the big money, sabotage themselves. So I don't care about, basically I would never get in a company that was not core value based with an ethical owner that I knew was legitimate. So it's not a question I have to ask prospects. It's just a stimulating idea I wanted to give each of you, because a lot of times when people are not rising to their full potential, they don't understand. The reason they're not is because they know in their heart of hearts they'd never bring mama into the deal they're in. They don't even believe in it, but they're doing it just for money. And I'm just trying to help all of you avoid that pitfall. So it's not something I would never ask a prospect to get into a stupid deal that doesn't match my core values. That's something I wanted to give you as distributors.
Awesome.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfectly.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
I'm going to try to bring on somebody here, Kenny. Let's see if
Yeah, go for it.
Michelle.
Yeah, we can just alternate back and forth.
Michelle, can you hear me okay? Looks like I can't bring her on. Michelle, if you want to call back on a phone, I will scroll through again. Kenny, if you want to read off another question here.
Yeah. So here's a good question, and you talked about not being a product expert, and this particular person wanted to know how would they dumb down their info on your product, on a particular product, without saying too much.
Well, the trick is not to dumb down. The trick is to just limit your comments to prospects to things that won't be over their head. You know, it's pretty easy to become real expert at comp plans, for example. And to be honest with you, you take the average. I mean, I've had CPAs that have argued with me that don't, CPAs that don't have any idea what I'm talking about. When I start explaining a pay plan, they just don't get it. Like I've asked CPAs before, if I own a company and I pay you 5% on 10 levels, what's the total payout I'm making as the company owner? And I've had CPAs say, well, 50%. That's a stupid question. No, it's 5%. I can pay 5% on 1,000,000 levels, and I'm only paying out 5%. The question is, how many people get paid 5% on how many levels, not how many levels. If a company pays 1 billion levels at 5%, they're only paying out 5% of their total sales. But I've had CPAs become indignant when I pointed that out to them. Just little things about pay plans that you think are rational and make sense to you will be over the heads of the average person who's never done networking. Now, when you get into products, holy smoke and rockets. I heard an explanation the other day from a guy selling a glutathione precursor that I guarantee you a heart surgeon wouldn't have understood. And he was proud of himself. I said, well, what does it really do? Well, it makes you feel better. I said, okay, say that from now on. It makes you feel better. When somebody says to me, Yarnell, tell me about the comp plan. How's it work? I say, well, if you work real, real hard for the next year, you'll make a big pile of money. That's all you need to know. You want to make a big pile of money? We're in. Let's do it.
That's so true.
So, I mean, I'm not going to go into the more detail. So you don't have to dumb yourself down. It's okay to understand your product or your technology or your pay plan. Just don't think you can impart that brilliant wisdom to outside prospects who've never done our industry. They don't even know. They're clueless. They don't even know what you're talking about. Just keep it real simple. Simplicity is evidence of the most advanced teaching. Keep it simple, in my opinion. Does that answer it?
Definitely.
All right, let's see if I can bring somebody on
David?
here. Yeah, I'm going to, Randy Myers, I'm going to try to bring you out. Randy, can you hear me? Randy, can you hear me? All right, Randy, I'm going to need to mute you out again. Let me try one more here. Guys, we tend to have a problem if you're just on the computer, unless you've got a headset or something like that bringing you out. Tamlin, I'm going to see if I can bring you out. Tamlin, can you hear me? Hello, Tamlin?
Hi, I didn't know you were bringing me on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Tamlin.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hey, thanks, Mark, for the succinct information. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
My question was early on when I formed it, and I think you may have answered it, but I'm spending a lot more than 2 hours a day, and I really need to know, can this be done in 2 hours a day? Is it realistic? Are there a lot of support hours behind that 2 hours of focus time?
Well, yeah, you know, you can do it 2 hours a day, or I wouldn't say you could. Now, here's what happens, Tamara. I mean, bottom line, here's what's going to happen. You're going to spend 2 hours a day, and then in 30 days you're going to wind up with a bunch of people, and they're going to, the next month, bring in a bunch of people. Now, at that point, you're going to start, I mean, I never said you won't spend more hours a day working the business, but what I'm saying is you're only paid to recruit and retail. So make sure that 2 of the 24 hours a day, let's you got 24 hours, you're going to sleep 8 of them, so let's just make sure that in those 16 hours, 2 of them you're doing recruiting and retailing. Now, you have to decide how much more time do I need to spend in a support role. And, you know, many times in the early days and even later on, I would spend as much as 6, 7, 8 hours a day talking to people. So, yeah, you're going to spend more hours. But what I want people to know is if you want to get to the big money, you cannot sacrifice those 2 hours you should be recruiting every day. So, yes, you will spend more hours in a support role, but don't give up those 2 hours of recruiting every day. That's what's critical. Does that make sense?
I think it does. I actually muted her out because there's a little bit of background noise, but I think that answers the question here pretty good. Kenny, do you want to move on to the next question on the list?
Yeah, this person, they basically, she's saying she's a stay-at-home mom, 14 years in a rural town, and wanted to know what you would recommend to be able to be around people to recruit and retail.
Well, the advantage of technology today is that I don't care where you live. I mean, you could parachute me into a town of 2,000 people of dairy farmers, and I'd be at $100,000 a month in a year. Now, it wouldn't be out of that town, but I mean, I'd get a list of people with whom I have something in common, so that's my warm market, and I'd sit there on the phone all day at 3-4 cents a minute. A lot of people talk for free, and I'd contact 20 people a day. They don't have to be in your community. In fact, I'm real careful not to recruit many people in my city because I don't want to be spending all my time supporting them. So I try to stay away from, you know, I mean, I'm very cautious. In New Skin, I recruited a whole bunch of people in Austin, Texas, and I was like a delivery guy running all over town, dropping off products. And so I learned the best thing you can do is recruit away from home. And that sounds crazy, but you'll see that when you build a huge network close. Technology is so inexpensive, long distance is so cost-effective today, and the Internet's so wonderful at reaching people. You don't have to worry where you live or your stay-at-home mom. The fact that you're stay-at-home mom's wonderful. Just use your telephone, use the computer, and reach people 2 hours a day and talk to them about the business. It doesn't matter where they live. That doesn't even matter.
And Mark,
I had a guy in...
Sorry about that. Go on.
Go ahead.
Oh,
no, I was just going to say, I had a guy in... One guy popped up on my computer one time called Steve Hancock. And all of a sudden, his group started outgrowing anybody in my whole downline. About my 3rd year in network marketing, and he was in JS, Mississippi. And I contacted this guy because I said, "What? How big's JS?" And he said, 400 people. I said, "What? How are you doing that?" And he said, "Well, you know, I'm just recruiting people all over New Orleans. It's only about 4 hours away, and I'm, you know." So it doesn't really matter where you live. It absolutely doesn't matter with today's technological reach that we've got. Okay, David, I just wanted to say that.
Oh, no, that's exactly what I was going to piggyback on. Just so you know, I can't remember the person's name. I've recruited in the last 3 weeks people in 10 countries. So it's irrelevant. The Internet changes the game. That's all I was saying. It's just an affirmation for what you were saying, Mark. So next question, Kenny?
You betcha. You betcha.
Kenny, you there?
I am. I'm just looking at the next question here. I'm just trying to go through.
I'm going to try to bring on somebody here. Bruce, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, David. Thanks.
Hey, not a problem, Bruce.
Hey, Mark.
Hi, Bruce.
Mark, it's a pleasure speaking to you again. I spoke to you about 20 years ago in person back in New Skin days.
Oh, thank you, Bruce. Good to talk to you.
Yeah. My question for you tonight is what you would consider is your best lead-generating marketing method today with the use of the Internet?
You know, I don't know that there is a best one. There are so many good ones now.
What was yours? What's your favorite?
Well, I tell you, you're talking to a guy with an IQ of about room temperature when it comes to technology. That's why I enjoy working with David, because the guy knows what he's doing in that arena, and that's why when he invites me on these webinars, I participate, because I respect what he and Ken, what these guys are doing. I'm not a good guy to talk to about how to generate leads on the Internet, because I made a discovery a lot of years ago that works for me, and that is just telephone. Now, I use the Internet very effectively to transport information, but I'm kind of the old school guy. I haven't learned this technology that well yet, and I've always had so many people to talk to that were like paraglide pilots or trout fishermen. I just go after people who are in my domain, one of my domains, and I just call them, and I just say, you know, introduce myself and go that way. I think eventually what I'm going to have to learn, because it's so much more effective in terms of large numbers of it, I think eventually I'm going to have to learn better how to use the Internet, because I know you can reach a lot more people. But for me, Bruce, my favorite thing is the same thing I was using back in '86 when I first got into Nu Skin. I just get lists of people that I can call and that have something in common with me, and I just use the telephone. I know that's the old dinosaur way to do it, but it's served me well, if that makes sense.
Obviously has afforded you a decent income, wouldn't you say?
Well, and you know what it is, guys? I think every generation has tools that work effective for them. One of the mistakes I think older people make, and I can say this with intelligence and I can say it with experience because I'm older now, is we've got to be very cautious to pretend that the old garbage that we use is better than the new stuff, because it isn't. It's just that, you know, the older you get, the more of a comfort zone you find yourself in using technology. Now, what I've loved about the phone is it's cheapened so much to use. When I see my daughter, I mean, my daughter runs a software company. Her whole life is computer technology. She's brilliant. And she grew up with it. She knows stuff I don't know, just like Dave. I mean, Dave, you know so many things. You've coached me. You know, I like to get information out. I'll say this about Dave, in all fairness to him, and to be appreciative in public. You know, Dave has unselfishly gone out of his way to teach my wife and teach me how best to blog. I've learned a lot, as has Valerie, from Dave. So for me, it's kind of like, I really admire you people who understand technology and use it, and I think it's an extremely cost-effective way to do network marketing. I'm just not as comfortable with it because I didn't grow up with it, if that makes sense.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
I think the biggest thing in network marketing, I've been on both sides of the fence, Mark, personally. I have done the old school way and the new school way, as they call it, or however you want to put it. And I think the biggest thing that I have learned in 17 years is that there's more ways to skin a cat, so to speak. And people just kind of need to find out what's comfortable for them and what works for them, and then focus on it, like you mentioned. Focus is the key.
Absolutely. You are 100% right. You know, there's so many ways to do it. Here's what everybody needs to understand. We're in the last bastion of free enterprise and legitimate capitalism. Don't think for a minute that there's any profession out there that's more admirable than network marketing. It's not so much the issue of how you're going to go about becoming wealthy. It's more about, do you understand how blessed you are to be in a legitimate profession where instead of starting at the bottom of a pyramid like Microsoft and trying to claw your way to the top, you start at the top of your own pyramid and elevate others by lifting them up. You know, this is a wonderful, dynamic, creative, honest, high-integrity, core-value profession. I've actually offered to go on any talk show at any time to debate any economist or global expert on capitalism resolved that network marketing is the most legitimate form of free enterprise, and nobody will debate me. They won't debate me on Larry King. They won't debate me on Fox. They actually called me one time from Fox Business Network and asked me if I'd be willing to come on and defend my position on a certain matter. And, you know, I didn't hear from them for 2 or 3 weeks. And when I did, the producer said, "I'm sorry, we couldn't find anybody willing to debate you." So it's not about how you're going to succeed in network marketing. It's about recognizing that you've been blessed with a very admirable profession about which you should never hang your head in shame, about which you should always be proud. And we have a responsibility to get the facts out to the masses and let them know that in this time of economic uncertainty, we have hope. We have opportunities. I've got friends who played by all the rules and became the millionaire next door. They saved. They bought real estate. They diversified their portfolios. They played by all the rules, and just in time for retirement, they got screwed by a system of capitalism made up of Bernie Madoffs. And I think it's sick. I think it's pathetic that there are literally fields of endeavor where honest, hardworking Americans can be raped and screwed and plundered right before retirement by a system that was supposed to take care of them if they played by the rules. I've got friends calling me all the time from Missouri that I went to school with saying, "Mark, can you help us? We're afraid we've lost everything, or we've lost 60% of all of our efforts. And we did it honestly, and we were fair, and we played by the rules, and we lost it all. Can you help me?" And I say, "Yeah, I think I can, because I'm in a legitimate profession." So just be proud of the profession and the industry. Don't hang your head in shame. Make sure that the company you're in matches your core values, and then get out there and become an emissary for our profession. Be proud of it. That's my main message. I am.
Definitely. Yes. Okay, here's another question, and interesting question, but they want to know your thoughts on attending weekly meetings within your network marketing company in regard to your company, if they're actually learning things that will, if they're not learning things that will grow their business. Does it make sense on spending the money, or should they focus more on building their business?
Well, I base everything on results. I think the answer to the question is inherent in the question itself. If I'm doing anything that isn't working, I quit doing it. When I was doing Nu Skin in the early days, I used to go to meetings every week, but it was because I learned something. I took away knowledge, and it was valuable, and it was great. And if there were meetings that didn't work, I quit going to them. My comment's real simple. If you're doing something and you assess the outcome, and the outcome is not in any way enhancing your lifestyle or your productivity, why would you even consider keeping doing it? That's called impression management. You're not going to get paid to manage the impressions of your upline. I would be embarrassed if I thought I was bringing people to a meeting just because they were afraid of me as their upline and they knew they had to be in attendance because it was mandatory. That's garbage. We're a volunteer army. You're a volunteer entrepreneur. You ought to go to anything as long as it proves to be profitable and valuable. When it ceases to be, why would you even consider doing that? It's just crazy. I think your answer was inherent in the question.
Yes, definitely. Do you have another one you want to bring on, David? Do you see anybody else on there we can bring on?
Let me try to bring on Harold Souter. Hold on a second. Hey, Harold, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, Dave. How you doing? Hi, Mark. This is a great call.
Hi, Harold. Okay. Thank you.
My question to you is, as far as prospecting, is there like a sweet spot time of the day that you normally use? Like, I'm on the East Coast, and I work during the day.
I have not been able to pinpoint one, Harold. I've tried. Sometimes it'll seem to me, and it's a delusion, but it'll seem to me because I'll get good results by calling people in the evening that the evening's the best time. And then just about the time I decide that, the next day I won't reach one person in the evening, and I'll get 8 people before noon. I'll do it in the morning. I really don't think there is a sweet time. I do think you're smart to work in the daytime. I think you're better off leaving a message for somebody you don't reach and not angering them than you are getting them up from the dinner table at 6 o'clock in the evening during family time. So I don't know about sweet spot times, but I do know for me, I've discovered the time that offends people the most is when they're spending family time at home in the evening. That's just my personal opinion. So I'm with you. I call people all day long, from morning until evening, but I usually don't bother them after the evening because I've just found that offends people. So that's my thinking on it. Any time's as good as any other.
Great question, I think. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, a very good question.
Yep, definitely.
Kenny, do you got one to go?
Yeah. This person is Carla. She's researching out alternative companies and wanted to know that because her current company has moved away from her core value. But she says it's so difficult because with so many companies popping up, obviously, how do you do a good job in making sure that it's ethical, because it really makes her nervous that she's going to make a mistake?
Well, I think the most important thing is to seek out people who are leaders. Generally what I've found, Carla, is great leaders don't pick lousy companies with bad pay plans and unethical owners at the wrong time. It's usually just the opposite. One of the things people in network, you've got an advantage because you're looking for a company. A lot of times people are disadvantaged by the fact that a relative calls them and says, you got to look at this deal. And so they end up signing up under a lady and their family who's not even making $200 a month. And they should. That's ethical. If somebody's going to show you something, you ought to sign up under them. But here's the deal. If you're shopping for a company, you want to make sure that they can verify that the owner is credible, that the owner has been, ethical. I would worry, for example, if I were looking at a company and I could do a Google search on it, and I found that as many as 40 or 50% of all the hits question whether it was a scam or not. Now, all companies are going to get bombarded by these stupid websites that are calculated to put down everybody. I mean, there are a handful of websites that are just trying to drive traffic to these, these scam sites and all that. What I'm saying is, I've found if I do a Google search on somebody, my rule of thumb is if half of everything that pops up is negative, there may be a fire there if there's smoke. So do your research, do your search, find out who the top, if you're looking at 3 companies, here's a bit of advice. If nobody's shown you those companies, find out who the top distributors are in each of those 3 companies, call them, talk to them, ask them some hard questions. How long's the company been in business? How many products have you got? Are they patented? What kind of pay plan is it? And, make sure that the owner's legitimate and they understand network marketing. Problem with our industry is it's such a lucrative field. You've got lawyers and doctors and accountants and celebrities putting their names on companies left and right who've never really done our business. You want to make sure the owner's got some experience. So that'd be, my recommendation. You can always make it real simple by going to the DSA because it's hard to get into the Direct Selling Association, and there's a waiting period during which you've got to prove yourself. So some people just go to those 300 companies and look through those. But just make sure that you do your research and find a winner in each company that'll level with you. That'd be my suggestion.
That's great. I love it. Let's try to bring on Fernando. Can you hear me okay? Hello, Fernando. Can't hear you, my friend. I'm going to go ahead and mute you back out. Do you got any additional questions here, Kenny?
I do, actually. I wanted to ask you a question, Mark, personally, because you always hear about this. Do you feel that people should be more apt to, I know you mentioned looking for a leader rather than so much the company, like somebody who's already been extremely successful, to where that becomes more important than so much the company itself?
Well, my experience, I don't know if you've seen this, but my experience is in most cases, the big money leaders just don't pick stupid deals. This may be the only industry in the world where people abandon all common sense when they enter it. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. For example, if I want to go learn about real estate in Manhattan, I'm going to try to get Trump to teach me how to do that. If I want to learn how to conservatively manage assets, I'm going to try to get as close to Warren Buffett as I can. I mean, you know, there are just certain leaders. If I want to learn quadrants of money management, I'm going to try to find out as much as I can from Kiyosaki's people. I mean, in our industry, it's no different. There are standout leaders in virtually every good company. My experience has been now, one of the things you look for is, has the person been in 50 deals? Unless you want to do Las Vegas type gambling, you're probably better off finding a legitimate passive residual income company that's going to last for a while. Now, some people like to bounce around. But my experience is if you find somebody who has distinguished themselves in the industry, typically they're somebody that's good to talk to because they don't pick stupid companies. That's just my thinking on it.
I totally agree with you on that because I think that, you know, leaders who have been in the industry typically have a little bit more knowledge in the industry and will typically take a good path.
Yeah, usually they'll pick a straight-up company. I mean, people always ask me, how'd you make so much money? And the answer is real simple. My upline was Richard Call, and he was making $100,000 a month, and I just shut up and did what he told me. I mean, it was a no-brainer. I didn't have to be smart. All I had to do was be mentored. And that's kind of the way it is. So what I would say, don't go looking for a leader. Go looking for a company that has products or services that you're passionate about because that's going to serve you better than anything. Now, once you find that, do a little search and find out who's at the top of that company would be my suggestion. The only caveat to that is if somebody has shown you a deal and you like it, don't go shopping for sponsors. That's just totally unethical. If somebody's bringing you into a deal and you're excited about the deal, sign up under that person. They deserve to profit from your efforts. But if you're just picking companies and sponsors, find one that sells the products. They've been around a while. You believe in them. You know the owner's decent. And just find out who the top distributor is and say, would you coach me? Get on their front line. That's what I'd do.
Makes sense.
Makes sense to me, too.
It's something we, you know, it's something we teach everybody within our system, too, guys, is that, you know, we teach you how to become an attractor, how to become a leader, and how to get people to attract to you so that you can attract the right people as well.
Absolutely, and you want to pay attention to that because eventually we're talking about what it takes to get to $100,000 a month. Once you get there, it's set match point. So you want to learn to become that leader because this is a very easy business once you become well established. People will be coming out of the woodwork to talk to you. So listen to what David's saying. If you can attract these leadership skills, you can find your leader first and learn from them, but become a distinguished leader as quick as you can, and then it's just the easiest business in the world. You'll love it.
Amen.
Oh, that's great. And Kenny, just so you know, everybody who's got their hands up, I've already tried them, and we can't get them on the line live. So if you want to read a couple more questions.
Yeah, and I got to go to the bathroom anyway. I've been sitting down here talking and drinking ice water.
Let's do this.
So I got to go upstairs and take. Huh?
Let's just let people go. You've been more than generous enough with your time. I certainly appreciate it here. And guys, this is what I'm going to encourage you to do. Mark has been incredibly generous, just coming on and not holding back. What he said here, I'm going to back it. Okay, he's just speaking the truth from a long line of experience and success in this industry. And you guys see everybody who's on your computer right now. Jim, I'm going to go ahead and switch the screen to me here really quick. Guys, you can see my screen here, hopefully, and I'm on Mark's site, thelotuscode.com. I know that I'm going to be one of the first people to have this book. Now, if you go to this site, on the upper right-hand side of the page, there's a little Buy Now button, okay? And here's what I'm going to do. This is $24.97 for this book. This is the life work of somebody who has made more in this industry than almost anybody that I know. I know he's humble and says that there's people who make a lot more, and that is true. But, Mark, I've been following you for years, so the second I get off this call, I'm buying this book for $24.97. I know it's not out yet, but I encourage everybody on the phone tonight, you've been listening to this information, go ahead and pick that up because, I mean, this isn't $500. This here will probably be more valuable than courses that you can get for $500 or $600 from people who don't know what they're talking about, who just make their living off selling courses. Mark's actually made his money in network marketing and didn't start writing books and selling courses until he was making $100,000 a month. Buy it. That's my encouragement to you guys. And next week, be here Monday night, 9 o'clock. You're all going to get an email about that information. You guys are going to be blown away by the gentleman that's going to come on that call as well. I'll see you then. And Mark, is there any final thoughts that you have for people before you head off?
No, just I appreciate your kindness. I enjoyed it. I love doing this, and thanks a lot for encouraging people to get the Lotus Code. But more importantly, just go out and get as many people aware of the majesty of our industry as possible. That's all I'm asking, because people are starving. People are starving today. And trust me, folks, I'm going on 60. I've got 80 million people in my age bracket migrating through the aging process, and they need our help. So you can focus on the 8 million networkers if you want to, but think about the 80 million people, and then think about the 85 or 86 million Generation Yers who really need a career. We've got it made. Just don't be embarrassed. Be proud of our industry and get as many people aware of it as you possibly can. That's my final thought.
Well, great, Mark. Thank you again so much. We appreciate you, and I'll be in touch as well. Thanks again for helping us out, and as always, you rock, my friend.
You bet.
We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, buddy. Good night, everybody.
Hey, Mark.